That's it. A wallet. My sister snickered, unwrapping my gift. Dad rolled his eyes and declared, he used to give real gifts before he got stingy. I just smiled and announced, you're correct. I used to. That night, I canceled every auto payment, messaged the bank, and locked the account. By morning, they discovered a legal notice taped to the refrigerator right beside her birthday list. I, 32M, never thought a simple leather wallet would be the catalyst that destroyed my relationship with my family. But sometimes the smallest gestures reveal the biggest truths about who people really are. For the past 8 years, I've been the family ATM. It started innocently enough after I landed my engineering job at a tech company. Dad lost his construction business during the recession, and my sister was struggling through college. I stepped up because that's what family does, right? I covered Dad's mortgage payments, my sister's tuition, her car payments, insurance, groceries, and pretty much every expense that popped up in their lives. The arrangement worked smoothly for years. I automated everything through my bank account, and they never had to worry about money again. Dad could focus on finding new work without the stress of losing the house, and my sister could concentrate on her studies. It felt good being the provider, the reliable one who kept everything together. But somewhere along the way, my generosity became their expectation. What started as temporary help turned into permanent dependency. They stopped looking for ways to improve their situation because why would they? I was handling everything. The warning signs were there, but I ignored them. Dad would make comments about my spending habits when I bought myself something nice, suggesting I was being selfish with money that should go to the family. My sister would hint about wanting expensive items, not asking directly, but making sure I knew about them. The gratitude that once accompanied their requests gradually disappeared, replaced by assumptions and demands. Last month, my sister's birthday was approaching, and she did something that should have been my wake-up call. She created a wish list and posted it on the refrigerator. Not subtle hints or casual mentions, but an actual printed list of items she expected me to buy. The list included a new laptop, designer handbag, expensive jewelry, and a weekend spa trip. The total would have cost me nearly $3,000. I stared at that list for a long time, feeling something shift inside me. When had I become nothing more than a walking credit card to them? When had my value as a brother and son become tied entirely to my bank account? That's when I decided to test something. Instead of picking items from her list, I went to a nice leather goods store and bought her a beautiful, high-quality wallet. It wasn't cheap. I spent over $200 on it. The leather was soft, the craftsmanship was excellent, and it came in her favorite color. I thought she might appreciate something practical yet luxurious. The birthday party was at Dad's house, the same house I'd been paying the mortgage on for years. My sister opened gifts from her friends first, small, thoughtful items that made her smile and laugh. Then she reached for my carefully wrapped present. I watched her face as she unwrapped the wallet, expecting maybe not excitement, but at least appreciation. Instead, her expression shifted to disappointment, then something close to disgust. She held up the wallet like it was contaminated and snickered. She asked if that was really it, just a wallet, her voice dripping with disdain. Dad jumped in immediately, rolling his eyes and declaring that I used to give real gifts before I got stingy. He said this loud enough for everyone at the party to hear, and I felt the room's energy shift. Other family members and friends looked at me with a mixture of pity and judgment, clearly thinking I'd become cheap. In that moment, 8 years of financial support, sacrifice, and putting their needs before my own condensed into a single, crystal-clear realization. I wasn't their family member anymore. I was their personal bank, and apparently, I wasn't performing my duties adequately. I looked at both of them and smiled. The smile wasn't forced or bitter, it was genuinely peaceful. I told them they were absolutely correct, that I used to give different kinds of gifts. The room went quiet, probably expecting an apology or explanation. I stayed for the rest of the party, making polite conversation and acting completely normal. No one suspected what I was planning. I helped clean up afterward, hugged everyone goodbye, and drove home with a sense of clarity I hadn't felt in years. That night, I sat at my computer and began the process of taking back control of my life. I logged into my bank account and canceled every single automatic payment related to my family. The mortgage payment, scheduled for the next week, was canceled. My sister's car payment, her insurance, her credit card payments that I'd been covering, all canceled. Her student loan payments that I'd taken over after graduation, Canceled. I called my bank's customer service line and explained that I needed to lock my account temporarily for security reasons. They were helpful and professional, setting up additional verification requirements for any large transactions or payment changes. Then I drafted a legal notice. I wasn't trying to be cruel or dramatic, but I needed to make sure they understood this wasn't a temporary tantrum. I consulted with a lawyer friend who helped me word it properly. The notice explained that effective immediately, I was ceasing all financial support, that any previous informal agreements were void, and that they had 30 days to make alternative arrangements for their expenses. I printed the notice on official letterhead and drove back to Dad's house while they were sleeping. I taped it to the refrigerator right next to my sister's birthday wish list. The contrast was symbolic, her list of demands next to my Declaration of Independence. Update 1. I woke up the next morning to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. My phone was buzzing so constantly I had to put it in another room. The messages ranged from confused to angry to desperate. Dad had apparently tried to buy groceries, and his card was declined. My sister discovered her car payment hadn't gone through when she got a notification from the auto loan company. The panic in their messages was almost funny. They'd lived so long without worrying about money that they'd forgotten how quickly financial reality can hit. Dad was demanding I call him immediately to fix whatever mistake had happened with the payments. My sister was asking if there was something wrong with my bank account. I let them stew for a few hours before responding. I sent a simple text to both of them stating that there was no mistake, that they should read the notice on the refrigerator, and that I wouldn't be discussing this over the phone. My sister showed up at my apartment that afternoon. She was crying, which surprised me because I'd rarely seen her emotional about anything that didn't directly benefit her. She asked what was wrong with me and why I was being cruel. She said the wallet was beautiful and she was sorry if she seemed ungrateful. I let her in and made coffee while she continued explaining how stressed everyone was. She said Dad was panicking about the mortgage payment and didn't understand why I was punishing them over a misunderstanding. I sat across from her and explained calmly that this wasn't about the wallet specifically, but about what the wallet represented. I told her that for 8 years, I'd been happy to help family members who were struggling and grateful for support. But somewhere along the way, they'd stopped being grateful and started being entitled. She argued that family is supposed to help each other, that I made good money and they needed the support. I agreed that family should help each other, but pointed out that help should flow both ways. I asked her when was the last time she'd offered to help me with anything, or even asked how I was doing financially or emotionally. The question caught her off guard. She stammered that she didn't know I needed help, that I always seemed fine. I explained that I'd been fine because I'd been responsible with money and planning for my future, but that supporting 2 households had prevented me from buying my own home, taking vacations, or building the kind of savings someone my age should have. She asked what I wanted them to do, how they were supposed to manage without my help. I told her the same way millions of other adults manage, by living within their means, finding work that covers their expenses, and making difficult choices about what they can and cannot afford. The conversation went in circles for 2 hours. She kept trying to find angles to make me change my mind, promising they'd be more grateful, suggesting we could work out a payment plan, asking if I wanted them to pay me back gradually. I remained calm but firm. The financial support was ending permanently. Update 2. The next few weeks were intense. Dad tried every manipulation tactic in his playbook. He called me selfish and ungrateful, reminding me of everything he'd done for me as a child. He tried guilt, saying I was destroying the family over pride. He attempted bargaining, promising to get a job and pay me back if I'd just cover the mortgage a little longer. When emotional manipulation didn't work, he tried practical arguments. He said I was being financially irresponsible by letting him lose the house because property values were rising and I'd lose my investment. I pointed out that the house was in his name, not mine, so I had no investment to lose. My sister took a different approach. She started looking for work immediately, which was encouraging. But she also began a social media campaign that painted me as the villain. She posted vague messages about family members who abandon you when you need them most, and about how money changes people. Some mutual friends and extended family members reached out to ask what was going on. A few tried to mediate, suggesting I was being too harsh and that families should forgive each other's mistakes. I explained the situation honestly to anyone who asked directly, but I didn't engage with the social media drama. The most challenging part was watching Dad struggle with the mortgage payment. He'd never developed financial discipline because I'd been his safety net for so long. He had no savings, no backup plan, and his job search was half-hearted because he was still hoping I'd change my mind. 3 weeks after I cut off support, he called me sounding defeated. He said the bank had started foreclosure proceedings and asked if I was really going to let him lose his house. I told him I wasn't letting him do anything. These were consequences of choices he'd made over the past 8 years. I offered to help him create a budget and job search plan, but I was clear that no more money would be coming from me. He hung up without responding. Update 3. 2 months later, the dust has mostly settled, and the results are mixed but revealing. Dad found a job. It's not glamorous. He's working for a landscaping company doing physical labor, but it pays enough to cover basic expenses. He had to sell the house, but he found a small apartment that fits his actual budget. He stopped calling me selfish and seems to be adjusting to reality. The most surprising development is that losing the financial pressure has actually improved our relationship in some ways. When he calls now, it's to talk about his day or ask about mine, not to request money or complain about expenses. We had lunch last week, and for the first time in years, he seemed genuinely interested in my life beyond my bank account. My sister's transformation has been more dramatic. Necessity forced her to find full-time work quickly, and she discovered she's actually good at sales. She's making decent money and has started talking about career advancement and professional goals. She had to give up the expensive lifestyle I'd been funding, but she seems more confident and purposeful than she's been in years. She apologized genuinely a few weeks ago, admitting that she'd taken my support for granted and hadn't considered how much pressure I'd been carrying. She said losing the safety net scared her initially, but ultimately motivated her to build her own financial independence. The extended family drama has mostly blown over. A few relatives still think I was too harsh, but most have come to understand my perspective once they learned the full scope of how much I'd been supporting and for how long. As for me, I'm in the best financial position I've been in since college. I've started putting the money I was spending on their expenses into my own savings and retirement accounts. I'm looking at buying my own home next year, something that would have been impossible while supporting 2 other households. More importantly, I feel like I have my family back, not as dependents, but as actual family members. The relationships are more honest now, based on genuine connection rather than financial obligation. The leather wallet is still sitting on my sister's dresser. She told me she uses it every day and thinks of our conversation whenever she opens it. She said it reminds her that the best gifts aren't always the most expensive ones, and that sometimes the most valuable thing someone can give you is the motivation to stand on your own feet. Looking back, I realized that cutting off the financial support wasn't revenge, exactly. It was boundary setting that was about 8 years overdue. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for people you love is to stop enabling their dependence and force them to discover their own strength. The birthday wish list is still on Dad's refrigerator, right next to my legal notice. He says he keeps both there as reminders. Her list reminds him of how entitled they'd become, and my notice reminds him of how close they came to losing me entirely over money. We're planning a family dinner next month, and for the first time in years, everyone is paying their own way.